All right, good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to NFT Live Web3 Network. Last show of the week. It is Thursday, September 7th. We've got the quad box. We're ready to rock. We got a lot of breaking news, and we're going to touch on how Apollo and Mark here are changing the future of crypto payments. It's going to be an exciting episode. Shout out to the homies that are showing up early, to the ladies and gents, and all the D-gens. Let's start with another D-gen who I'm really just happy to have here, just every week here. Biggie Poppins, what's up, my man? You're muted, I think.
Strong start. Let's go.
Yeah. Man, what a great conversation in the Web3 show. I really wanted to chime in a little more, but my baby was going haywire on me. But man, I'm excited to get into. Always happy to be here with OVOT fam.
Mark, how are you today, man? Appreciate you joining us on the GM Web3 show, as Biggie just mentioned. Good to also have you here for, I think the third time now on NFT Live. So you're becoming somewhat of a regular here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. You know, this is definitely my safe shilling space in Web3, because I can just hang out and have a natural conversation. I don't have to prep for it. I don't feel like I need to put a shirt and tie on or, have a script. I don't have to have an adult come and watch it and make sure I don't say anything stupid. So it's really cool to just come and hang out with you guys.
Nice. We appreciate you, man.
I am outright offended by your lack of preparation and the fact that you're not taking this more seriously, Mark. This is a professional enterprise. We do the news. We cover
the
news. we cover.
Listen, I made some notes, right? And here are my notes. I started scribbling and just doodling during the Twitter space because I was like, I don't need notes for this. This is just a natural conversation. So yeah, my notes were just me scribbling while someone else was talking.
That looks like me making my parallel deck, to be honest, now.
How are you getting on with that parallel deck? Are you enjoying that?
I'm enjoying a lot of that game. We've been shilling them heavily, also without pay. So we're doing something right up here, I guess, guys. We are having a good time playing Prime, also earning Prime tokens and just getting into the ecosystem, man. I know you were super interested in the Deadfellaz news. We will get into the Deadfellaz news, by the way, folks. Pivoting maybe to a trading card game narrative here in just a moment. But yeah, Mark, you haven't gotten a try on the parallel piece here?
No, it's Windows only, right? For the time being, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, if it was, because my workhorse is a Mac, right? I have a Windows gaming machine, but the kids mostly use it right now. Just I don't have the time. If it was web-based on Mac, maybe they're going to come out with that. I would probably have tried it by now for sure.
Mark, you're bigger than them, bud. Just push them to the side, kick them off it for a little while, And yeah, I was having a good time with my deck building out my Shroud deck. I was absolutely killing it. Hit platinum, and then immediately started getting steamrolled by the Marcos, the Markolians, and how OP they are. And I literally went from rank 350 back down to 600. In just a matter of an hour or two. So they got to nerf Marcos, man. Seriously, Mr. Gone, wherever you are.
Coming from a Shroud player.
Nerf the Marcos, dude.
I need to pick this up now. I need to do it. Everyone at work, I have this nonstop at work. Everyone just talking about it all the time.
Nice.
So I've got to do it now.
If you are interested, Mark, I want to front run Gifted, because right now there is an avatar challenge. So the avatars are like the PFPs of Parallel. They're going for about 0.25, 0.26 the last time I checked. There's actually raffles for people who are basically referring people to the game. So I would love to get you my referral link, Mark. That would be a way you could support the channel. But if you guys are out there interested in Parallel as well, just DM NiftyQ, DM Gifted. We both have 2 referrals to give.
This guy already has his keys and a full deck of NFTs, and he's making Prime, and he's out here trying to front run me when I don't even have an avatar. Don't even have a single avatar. These are the types of friends I got.
All right. We do have to get into some breaking news before we jump into Apollo. Again, we just got off the GM Web3 morning spaces over there on X and had a great discussion for an hour on what Mark's building and really around crypto payments and why those are a main use case right now for, and into the future, obviously, for crypto and blockchain tech. So we will get into that in about 10 minutes. We want to hit on some breaking news right up front. I think the Bieber stuff is interesting to bring up as well. I do have to say this because I put it together as we were rounding out the episode. I was asking Gifted, and I've been on him about this Nakamigo. Okay, because again, Gift has been giving just his post went viral on the Nakamigos, and then I just put this together that Gifted is the only man on X that is trapped into an NFT IP that he doesn't want to be a part of. The only man. There's got to be a name for it.
Look, I don't think I'm the only one. Yeah, I believe that there's a similar, there's a common phrase used in Web3 that's, likened to cheaper to keeper. It's less damaging to your tweet cred to not change your X face. You've heard that saying, right? It's not great to change it apparently for your algorithmic reputation score. And it's also, you lose your blue check for like a week or two. Like it takes a while.
So you don't, right? So the gold checks, you can change your PFP whenever you want and your blue check remains. So yeah. So that's a utility. So if you're an affiliate, so if like a company,
I'm not an affiliate. Why are you just?
Web3 needs to pay that. I think it's $1,200 a month for a gold check. Web3 should pay for the gold check.
Oh, cool.
And then you guys will be able to change. You'll be able to be a Naka one day or whatever else you want to be the next day.
No problem.
Keep your blue tech. And
as soon as that Apollo sponsorship money comes in, we're on it, bro. We're doing it. Next day, we're getting those gold checks, Mark.
All right. Okay, I've been giving Gifted a little bit too much. It's all fun and games here on NFT Live, of course, and I'm interesting, and I'm very excited to see where your PFP journey goes, that should say. So anyways, I'm excited to see where this episode is headed. Justin Casey, not in the kitchen, but it's quite hot here in Jersey. Squashman, our vibe, our tribe. It's the Prime show where we show all things Prime. We got to it up front. DP saying, what up? Marty McFly is in the house. And Kiku, nice to see you chatting here on NFT Live. That's awesome. Great to see everybody in the house. Just a quick disclaimer, we are not financial advisors. Anything you hear on this show through the entirety, you should not do anything to trade on that information, essentially. So not financial advice, got it up out front. I wanted to touch on a piece of news, fellas, and I wanted to get your take on the Luca Nets $10 million statement yesterday from Pudgy Penguins, basically saying, hey, we're on track to sell $10 million worth of this. And we don't know if that's pure profit or revenue, all that stuff, but $10 million statement from Luca Nets. People started putting the math together and wondering whether this statement is even true. They almost need to sell like 75,000 of these Pudgy Penguins toys. And then I did some digging here on X, and I actually found some interesting quotes from him that I'll talk about. But any takes on Luca's statement about the $10 million revenue there and what you guys think?
Well, shouldn't you fill out with the context of these quotes that you're teasing first before we comment?
I was trying to trap us, isn't it?
I know.
We're going to say something. Well, guess what? You're wrong.
It's a trap.
All right,
give us the context. What's the context?
All right, guys, it's hard to run a show here. I got 3 other amazing co-hosts here. Sometimes to transition, I need like a 5-second window. Okay, the context I was able to find, they were at Comic-Con. Obviously, there was like that big hubbub around them selling the toys at the conference, and there was a Spaces around this. And I want to read a quote from what I found from either that Comic-Con and also a space related to it. In a Twitter Spaces, Luca estimated that 85 to 90% of current sales are attributed to Web3 centric consumers. Over time, those numbers will shift towards a more diverse consumer base as other channels, distribution partners, and marketing spend turns on. They've spent 0 up to this point. The company is on track, and again, reminder, this is about 2 or 3 months ago. The company is on track for $6 to $7 million in revenue this year, with half from physical products, burn rate less than this amount. So the company is already on track to be profitable. There's the context, which seems to be in direct competition with his statement about selling $10 million worth of Pudgy toys.
Yeah, well, maybe the confusion here is around the specifics of these toys. Is it just physical? I think everybody was assuming it was just physical. They might be including like digital components as well into that number. What I take from this is he's feeling very bullish on the momentum that they're seeing. They initially were projecting 6 to 7 mil total revenue. I don't think this is profit. I think it's total revenue this year, and now they're looking more towards 10. This is a projection based on what they're seeing, and I'm assuming a lot of that, the way that companies project is they look at a pipeline of upcoming deals, outflows, inflows, and then they make an assumption. They make a guess. It's an educated guess.
A projection.
It's a projection.
Yeah.
That's what a projection is. And so I think a lot of people took this and ran with it. Like, you haven't sold $10 million worth of physical toys. What are you talking about? And it's like, yeah, the math doesn't math, but if based on what's already been done, but if you knew what he knows about their Walmart distribution deals for the holidays, their Target distribution deals for the holidays, their web distribution deals for the holidays, and how they've been selling so far, you might have a different picture and feel more bullish.
I think this is just Twitter all over, right? Where people have a limited amount of information and they 2 + 2 = 12. Like, breaking it down, I'm sure he said forecasted or on track or something along those lines. Like, they could have like a massive retail order. Most of Twitter has no idea how retail orders work. They're not paying Pudgy Penguins every time a toy sells. That's not how it works, right? They're buying in bulk beforehand for inventory and then reselling. And is he quoting what Pudgy Penguins is getting in revenue or what retailers are selling? So there's all kinds of information here. I think disregarding any of this, it's really bullish on Pudgy Penguins that they can capture so much revenue outside of their holders. So whether it's 5 million, 7 million, 10 gross net, forecasted or current, I think it's good that Luca clearly is saying, okay, we're going to monetize outside of Web3, and you guys aren't going to have to pay for fucking everything. So I think that's pretty bullish in itself. Yeah, you can probably pick out the nitty gritty bits and say that it's not quite true, but at the end of the day, again, we touched on this on Twitter, right? We don't need to beat them down and say that he might, like, imagine if the guy's out by $25,000. I think Twitter or X is the kind of place where people would hammer him for that, right? They'd be like, hey, you were like 0.025 off on your estimations. So I think it's really good of that project to be going down that path.
And then a bunch of people in spaces, a bunch of tweeps will try and like rake them over the coals and grandstand and make some, point off.
Does anyone have a toy here, by the way? Have any of you guys ordered them?
I don't.
I got my Doodles toys.
They look really good.
I got an old school CryptoKitties toy that's actually.
Oh, is that like? Oh, that looks cool.
That's
as well.
sick. Yeah.
3D printed.
Oh, I've got some crypto toys next to me. Actually, these ones are banger though. These are levels. Biggie might be jealous.
I'm excited to see what he's got. Oh, he's.
Oh, the OGs. So the.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
wow, man.
OGs. I love these. They're in the office. They have like. They're in the prime spot. Right now.
You're gonna trigger Marty McFly.
The
basketball. That basketball's OG, right? That's like 2021.
This
I
is
did
around
not
the corner. Yeah,
collect mine.
21 or something.
Yeah.
This is an OG, by the way. If you know what this is, you're an absolute OG. This is a crypto kaiju.
Wow.
From 2018, I think they were building these. I don't know.
Could have
whatever.
just bought a CryptoPunk, by the way.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
The opportunity cost in this space. Am I right?
And he had to bring up the creepy little dude next to him too.
Did you see their retail thing with what's that? Was it Camp, the store?
Yes. Yeah,
we didn't cover
actually.
that.
Yeah.
That looked incredible, right? Again, bullish on those companies. I think Doodles, Pudgy Penguins, that their IP genuinely carries over to Web2 really well. I still don't think Bored Ape Yacht Club does. I know I'm going to get flamed for saying that, but I don't think that IP carries over anywhere near as good as like Doodles, right? It just doesn't.
Yeah.
$3
They're a
today,
little more
boys.
PG.
I don't know, man. Did you see those like Old Navy Walmart shirts, bro? In Canada, they looked pretty. It looked pretty lit.
I got some of the merch, right, and it was basically cardboard. Like some of the merch from Yugo was terrible.
Sheesh. All right.
Okay, Look, we got to get into what Mark is building here with Apollo. We are going to get to this in just a moment. Guys, do you have anything in the quick news variety that we could hit on? I know that Vitalik had a paper that was published here, and we could cover that related to privacy and regulation around that. We could hit that. I know Heavy Metal Forge was something we were waiting for today. In it going live, that got pushed about a week by the Bored Ape Yacht Club and Yuga Labs. I got a tweet from Rareable as well. Anything that's on your mind, fellas, as we start here before we get into Apollo?
I'm just pissed Dune got fucking pushed back till March. You didn't hear that?
Yeah. What? They got a reshoot or something?
Q's face is priceless. Yeah, man. I'm livid, man. I was so looking forward to that motion picture, and thank you, Hollywood actors and AI, for ruining it for everybody else. I blame them.
Well, Biggie just ruined my day. All right, let's touch on this Vitalik paper. I know Biggie, you did it. You read a TLDR. Mark, you I think dove in. Me and Gif, I don't think have even read this yet. So we've got a variety of different takes here that we can have on this. But yeah, anytime Vitalik is putting out any research or any papers, it's obviously a good idea to kind of dive in. So do you have any thoughts on his piece here?
Yeah, so this builds on some of the great work from, I want to say March, where what problem they're trying to solve at a basic level here? Basically, the US, the OFAC, and I think the EU followed suit, said Tornado Cash just isn't good, right? We're going to throw the devs in jail. Anyone using this is going to go on a list, and you're going to be on the naughty list, and you can't play nice with the rest of crypto. They essentially tried to kill it and said that it was used by North Korea and the drug lords, and used for every nefarious activity that could possibly be used for transacting in value. Now, they were kind of right, but also kind of wrong. Like, for sure, it was used by bad actors. So what Vitalik and co here tried to do is say, we want to have Tornado Cash, but be able to say, my deposit came from this subset of deposits, or it didn't come from this subset of deposits. So if OFAC were to say, okay, these are the list of deposits using Tornado that are illegal, this is a way to prove that my money did not come from there. Yes, I've used Tornado, but my interaction with Tornado has nothing to do with any of this like really nefarious noted activity. And that's the easiest way to describe what they've done here with this.
And I love it because it's again like big-brained individuals coming to appease the government once again, about some nitty-gritty thing that they want to nitpick on. I'm very interesting to see that now that they have this issue solved, it's like, okay, I can prove that my funds are not from illicit activities, but I want my fucking privacy, bitch. I want to see how they react to that, because I want to see how much it is the whole illicit, mumbo jumbo that they've been making a big fuss about, or is it they just want to look into our knickers, as they would say, right, on the other side of the aisle. Like, that's just my opinion. I think that this it's kind of like the ETF debate that they're having, on the other hand. It's like they've been making such big waves on one particular talking point, right? Now it's solved. You good? Is this good enough? Or are you going to find something else to bullshit about for another year? It'll be interesting. I think they will. They'll pick something else.
The part that I picked up on this when I was kind of diving into the research around Tornado Cash, obviously, again, the devs were arrested for what the authorities deemed illicit activity. The idea that when you put your money into something like Tornado Cash, it's like a blender, right? That you're like throwing your cash, or you're throwing your ETH in there, and you're taking somebody else's ETH out of the pool. I thought that's how it worked. I think that's how they literally marketed it. Like, not directly, right? But I think most people think that that's how it works. It's a pool of money and you're pulling it out, and you, on the other side, don't have to, have that be traced to your original wallet. It's essentially now just a receipt, right? Like, that's what's coming out of this, is like, it's not somebody else's money you're taking out. It's just you receive a receipt for putting, say, ETH in, and then you redeem that ETH on the other side by having some sort of receipt on another wallet. I don't want to get too far into the technical weeds, but that's actually, and that's the key part too as well, right, Mark? That my ETH or the ETH that I'm pulling out doesn't belong to the Taliban who put another ETH in.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, right? Imagine you've got a hat and everyone puts a dollar bill in that hat. Now, the existing Tornado Cash, and there are caveats to this, but I won't go too technical, basically enabled anyone to come back to the hat and take out that $1 bill again. And you had no idea who that $1 bill came from. You could be really dumb and one person could put in like a $100 bill, right? And then someone took that out and you know exactly where it's come from, right? Because you're like, oh, well, only one person put a $100 bill in. So you know where it's come from. So you could use Tornado Cash and use it in such a way that meant that everyone could just trace you anyway. But you absolutely could also use it to be completely invisible. And what this way of doing is saying, oh, hey, we're going to put like little marks essentially on the dollar bills so that when I pull it out, I can say, well, it kind of came from here or it didn't come from here. And I think the exclusion thing is more important, where I can say, oh, look, this did not come from those 10 people over there who like we know are bad actors. So it's a nice solution. But again, like Biggie said, currently OFAC say Tornado Cash is no bueno, you can't use it, right? So this will probably need to be applied to a new protocol or a new product. And then it'll be a case of saying, okay, do they come after that? Because then we'll really get to see how much they actually care about saying this is all bad actors versus we just don't want anyone to have privacy on chain.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. I definitely want to jump into Apollo now. I did drop that link for the paper there. Apparently, there were a bunch of different authors there, including Amin Soleimani, who I've been following since his Moloch days there. That was a interesting time there when Moloch was formed, and he's definitely a smart individual on the Ethereum side. All right, we will get into Apollo now. I do see a bunch of comments. Fellas, if you could do me a favor and pull out one that you might like to highlight here, because I missed all of them while we were having that conversation. Just in case he's saying I bought a sushi PKG from Kaiju. I saw a plushie. Okay, so Squashman said I bought a penguin plushie for my son. Marty's saying that Luca's lucky if he even hits half that number. Also, that we're Fade Yuga and the instant segue to another topic. Prodigy, I see you here, man. But any comments that y'all see that you want to pull out before we hop into Apollo?
Never Fade Yuga, right?
Yeah.
Truth.
That is the mantra.
I have got bags there as well, right? I'm hella down like everyone else, but still never fade them.
Agreed.
Who sold the Taliban ETH? Jesus. Anyway, this chat is lit. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, thanks for the primer there on Tornado Cash, because I just loosely understand it. I feel like I have a little bit better understanding of what's going on there now. Hey, if you're here joining us, first of all, thank you. Second of all, smash the like. That's all I got to say about that.
All right, I'm going to do my best to keep us on task here. Prodigy's saying y'all like turkey or ham for sandwiches. So we're not actually going to answer that. Thank you, Prodigy, for the awesome content. But we will get into Apollo. We're about 20 minutes into the episode, so it's about time. Mark, you've been building a lot in the space. We first met you, I believe, about 6 months ago at this point, when you were on the show for the first time talking about this new thing called Bitcoin ordinals and what that was going to entail for a lot of folks. Obviously, Bitcoin ordinals had a huge run up there over summer. So you called that one. You've been great at, kind of explaining your thesis on the space, but also about what you're building. So I'll let you do that here. What have you been up to since the last time you were on NFT Live? What are you building here with Apollo?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we're now building a crypto payments orchestration platform. So we pivoted really hard into the foundations of blockchain tech, right? Which was all roads lead back to payments and ramps and off ramps, and we've got our hands on a superior payments network. Almost every blockchain is better than what exists in the legacy world, in the fiat world. And hey, let's use it for payments and figure out why merchants aren't currently using it. It's funny, when we pitched an investor not so long ago, they said to us, everybody's doing crypto payments. And we essentially said to them, well, when was the last time you paid for something? Like anywhere with crypto? And they're like, oh, well, I haven't. It's like, well, everyone apparently is doing it, but guess what? No one has done it yet, right? We see it nowhere. Like, no big retailers. There's a few edge cases, but generally speaking, it just isn't accepted. So we set out to speak to as many merchants as possible and figure out why and solve that problem.
All right, so you have Apollo here. I also, we're on NFT Live. I do want to hit on the NFT component of this pretty early on, but kind of dive into what you guys are doing. I know it's a tough conversation. Like, we're not touching on payments here a bunch on the network all the time. So wherever you'd like to take it, just give us that elevator pitch and kind of let's dive in.
Yeah, so essentially, I mean, if you scroll up to the top there is that payment flow. This is the holy grail for ApeCoin holders, right? Which is we want a merchant to accept ApeCoin, right? I want to buy something with ApeCoin. You'll hear everyone who's pushing ApeCoin saying this. It would be really cool if. Well, the problem is you can see after that there's a hell of a lot that actually needs to go on, even for a crypto native team to accept that ApeCoin as a payment. One, they need to ensure that the payment they've received for the goods is coming from somewhere I'm allowed to accept it. We touched on Tornado. If you accept payments that have touched Tornado, the chances are you won't be able to cash it out. It's a big problem for merchants. And then they don't want ApeCoin in treasury, right? They want fiat in their bank. They want to pay their wages, their salaries, their lease agreements. They want to pay their bills. So a flow here, this is obviously hypothetical, is someone could pay with ApeCoin. Apollo will run the payment through chain analysis to detect if they can accept that payment. And then we'll automatically convert it to USD and then deposit it into their bank account through their chosen exchange. So what we're doing here at Apollo is piggybacking on top of the awesome innovations that exist in the space, 1inch, OKX, chain analysis, and we're bringing these all together like a jigsaw puzzle and putting them together and saying, using everything that exists, you can build the perfect payment solution.
All right, the Apollo Pass is obviously a big portion of this as well. The additions that you're working with and the curation of different pieces from some pretty well-known artists and the way that you're going about that. So break down that Apollo Pass mint that's live now.
Yeah, so the Apollo Pass is essentially access into the community and to all of our products. So unlike a lot of other NFT mints, you mint this pass, and on day one, you've got access to editions. So editions are our curated collection of amazing work from artists in the space. And every period, so between 6 to 8 weeks, you can mint 2 of these per pass for free, absolutely no cost. So you just log onto the app, you select which pieces you want, and then you're done. You're off to the races. They're in your wallets. And every period we have a different curator. So this first one was myself. So these have all been picked by me, all of these editions. And the next creation, we've got the next 2 curators sorted, and they're already starting to curate their art for their next editions, which is really cool. And again, we've got tools. So projects as large as Notable Pepe's use our tools that currently exist. So they use the raffle functionality to determine every weekend who gets to mint their new cards. So they use us under the hood. We have blockchain nodes, which are used by many projects during their mints. And again, I think we have the best snapshot tool that exists in the space. So this is all stuff that you can use like right now. No promises of us building this. It's not coming later. You have a pass, you get access to all of that on day one.
There's no FOMO rush here, folks. One of the key pieces here is that the mint is live, but it's going to be live for probably a year. You guys were talking about potentially having it open for. The mint price is relative. I don't think it's that bad at 0.09, I believe, for one. There's obviously some rewards for holding multiples. Guys, if you have any questions, jump in. And also, Mark, if possible, jumping into the app and seeing it from maybe Biggie's perspective, because Biggie is a holder.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, absolutely no FOMO. We had no marketing, right? And people have said, oh, why have you got no marketing? Well, we can get away with no marketing because we don't need to do marketing. We're building a real product. Like, the product will market itself in many ways, especially on payments, because merchants we speak to, they don't care for anything else that's going on with this app and this pass and the NFTs and stuff. They just want payments, right? So they don't care for any of that, and we do the marketing and selling the payment solution to them. But there's no FOMO. Like, we've always been big on, if someone wants one of these, hey, like, wait until you're in a position where you can pick one up and then buy one. Like, we don't FOMO into absolutely anything. From experience, almost all FOMO mints are garbage anyway, right? Like, they almost all go to zero. Maybe in 2021 that wasn't true, but these days it's probably not worth minting most of them. So there's no FOMO. We truly believe it will take around a year to mint out the full supply. So yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, from the token perspective, were you guys able to see the screen while I was looking around? Oh, okay, cool. I think one key here that you mentioned, Mark, right, is that you guys are non-custodial, right?
Yeah.
You know, whereas like, for example, a company like PayPal that just jumped into with their stablecoin solution, right? Arguably one of the main reasons why they probably jumped on that is because of the big connections they have with so many merchants and the problems that they have with chargebacks and, you know, serial refunding, which is like a $3.4 billion issue, right? The issue there is that it's centralized. It is custodial, and they will be the bottleneck and the bane of your existence, which they already are. A lot of people have, hence the, you know, the existence of Stripe and so many other payment providers, right? But what I like about your solution here is that it's non-custodial, right? Like you are able to accept any and all different types of currencies, not just stablecoin, and you take care of everything in the back end without anybody having to really think too much about crypto if they don't want to. I think it's really cool. I really appreciate that whole orchestration or follow through, right? Or like follow along through that orchestration issue, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand that there's so much more to it than just receiving the payment in crypto and cashing out. You know, they try to make it seem very simple. It isn't. Go try it. I think we just recently found out that's the case with the recent MetaMask announcement, where somebody tried to do the, you know, off ramping of some funds and realized that there's some ridiculous amount of fees being charged.
Like 9%.
And friction. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we decided, right? You should be free as a merchant in particular to bring your own providers, right? So like cash out is one of the first things that people ask us. And like right now we're integrated, I think, with Binance, OKX, Coinbase, and we're adding more of those basically when merchants are saying, I'm using these. And one of the reasons it's important that you let them bring their own accounts is if I'm Selfridges or a global retailer and I go to Coinbase and say, I want to process crypto payments, but I want to be converting those to fiat, and this is who we are. You bet they have a different rate than you, me, and everyone else in this space, because they're bigger, they have more volume, and they've got white label service at that exchange. So you have to let the retailers and the merchants bring their own providers, because they negotiate their own rates for conversions and cash out. So you can't say that, okay, we're going to be all of this and enable cash out, because a retailer will be like, this just makes no sense. Like Coinbase give us 0.01% fee because of who we are. You forcing your rate on us doesn't make sense. So we let a merchant bring their own accounts as well, which is super important. We don't, like, as Pudgy said, there's no custody. We don't use any of our own accounts, so none of the funds ever go anywhere where we could essentially extract them or touch them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, I mean, and all of this will be eventually facilitated through the ecosystem that you guys are building with the token, right?
Yeah. So yeah, there'll be a fee to use our payment service, like any other payment service. And that fee will be paid using a token that's going to be distributed to pass holders. Someone smartly asked us, why didn't you just launch the token instead of the pass? Because absolutely, Editions could have just consumed the token. And the truthful answer to that is there's a lot of things we haven't figured out yet. We're a UK registered company, so we're working on the legal structure because we're not going offshore. We don't want to do the shady thing. It'll be a token issued from a UK company. You know, our terms of service, it's a UK company. You can see our address, where we're registered. So we want to do it the right way through the UK jurisdiction. And we also have tokenomics to work out. We don't want to rush those out. We want to take our time and make sure they're absolutely nailed. So that's why there's no token right now on day one, and the token will come when it's ready, right? There's no rush to get it out. Getting it wrong is more expensive than just shipping it out as soon as possible.
Mark, you laid out a really cool, or I think like a really well thought out thesis on why you went the NFT route as well, because these are payments. You don't need an NFT. It literally, like, talking about it, it almost feels a little bit unrelated, right? But the way that you laid it out on the GM Web3 Morning Show was, look, we are and have studied and done our research on a lot of traditional Web2 companies, some that are consumer facing, that claim to be trying to attract users and consumers in that route, that don't even have a semblance of a user base. And the real, I think, innovation on the Web3 front is the ability to have that one-on-one connection, that instant shared value that I think is kind of that Kickstarter for a community when you look at it. So you did a way better job than I could laying that out, but just kind of reiterate that, man, and let's dive in real quick to your thoughts there.
Yeah, so There are two. I'd like to use two Web2 companies as examples to this, right? You look at a company called Twilio, which is basically telecoms infrastructure right now, and you look at a company called Stripe, right, which is payments in the fiat sense. And Twilio started off as like this gnarly API. All you could do is send a text message, right? So they gave you a programmable interface to send a text message, and this was back in like 2012. And I was an early developer back then, working on a whole bunch of startups. They were everywhere, and you had people walking around with Twilio merch. You went to a hackathon and people said, use the Twilio API, see what cool thing you can do with this. And they captured the community and that sort of long-tail developer community unlike anyone else. Everybody just wanted to use Twilio and were happy to rep it, and they were like, this is awesome. And Stripe is a good example of that as well. Stripe won because they captured all of the long-tail developers. And as a developer, you would go into a company and be like, I'm using Stripe for payments because I know it's pleasant for me to use as a developer. So that's why they would be picked up there. And Web3 provides you with an ability to capture that evangelist community, unlike Web2 companies can these days. There's too much noise on typical socials. So again, I pointed to a couple of like YC companies, Y Combinator companies in the current batch that are consumer companies with no followings. Like they get less engagement than your average NFT project, right? They don't have that kind of community. Whereas in Web3, you'll see people make their entire identity around a protocol, a project, a coin. And the reason that they do that ultimately comes down to there's some shared incentive structure there for the community and the project, the protocol, the token. And if you get that incentive structure right, then everyone can win. You get that evangelist community who will market you, who will introduce you to businesses they know. And they get some upside too. So Web3 enables that. And we kind of forgot about that for a long, long time. The early NFTs were just that, right? Where we believed we were buying shares and some equitable upside in these projects. And I think the reality of it was, hey, we were just a consumer in many instances. The team made their riches with all of the IP agreements and so on. And the community was stuck holding some really nice art in some instances and some really crappy art in others.
Dude, I love the commitment to organic Web3, approaches and how you're building everything. It's really great because so much of what people come in with or the ways that they actually do things is not really Web3 or innovative or interesting, and it's usually not organic. Most people don't want to take the time and put in the effort, and a lot of that comes down to the luxury. You've mentioned y'all are in a good spot. I won't say privileged. You are in you have the privilege of time based upon where you're situated, where you don't have to do FOMO tactics. You don't have to do hype marketing, paid advertising. Like you were saying,
Yep.
Again, we're not getting paid. You don't pay anybody for anything. And the fact that you can just roll things out, take your time, try and focus on creating value, creating a good product without having the sort of like, the dogs at your door, if you will, is, I think that's the best way to be if you can be that.
And I see a question here, which is like, you see this all the time, like how many tokens, what about distribution, lockups? Like, it's really simple for us. The token goes to the community and the pass holders. Like, there are no lockups, there are no team tokens or liquidity pool tokens or anything like that. It's a fair token launch. Yeah, it's like a really fair launch. If the team want any tokens, hey, they have to go buy a pass like everyone else and receive their tokens that way. It's as simple as that. And the token will be essentially that gas token for using the payment service, right? So how are the team getting paid? Well, you know what? If people use the payment solution, they're paying us in the token. It's not hard to figure that out. Like, we receive a US dollar amount of a token, that is ours. And it's a very sort of cyclical ecosystem in that if there's no one using Apollo Pay and what we're building, then the token inherently has no value. And that scares people. But in my opinion, what's more scary is people don't understand that. Like, if we build a product that no one wants to use, then the business has no value. Like, who gives a fuck about the token? There's no reason the business should exist at that point. It's as simple as that.
That is the other piece that you were hitting on, which had a light bulb moment for me, was that a lot of NFT projects come into the space and a lot of like Web3 companies come in trying to say, like, we're going to change the world, right? Like, we're going to change all this. You broke it down to like, brass tacks and said, no, this is just an awesome way to curate a shared incentive community. So like, not promising anything else other than that, other than these additions and these pieces that are some really cool utility. you're honing in on the use case, the actual use case, not the we're going to be the next Disney, not the we're going to just, change this whole economy and turn it upside down, actually focusing in on the real use case and leaning into it.
Yeah, we want to solve, like, we are solving real problems, like with pay. So there's a few token launches that are really hyped up in the space, and you'll see Apollo Pay on those, and that'll be many people's first introduction to it, where they'll probably be like, what the hell is this technology? And the simple problem is, in that instance, there's a token sale and they want to accept 50 payment tokens. Like, nothing else exists in the space right now to quickly embed something on your checkout and say, okay, I want to accept Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Dust Labs token, ApeCoin, Ethereum, NEAR, and we enable that pilot program to do that, which is, hey, you can accept all of these, and immediately they get the value. So when people say to us, are you building something that is needed in the space right now? The answer to that is yes. We have more people wanting to use a pilot than we can bring on right now. And we're also very honest and open. Like, the reason the token hasn't launched is because we haven't figured it all out yet. And what we mean by that is, say for example, we launch with a whole bunch of big merchants. Having too much buy pressure on the token would also be bad. Like, it might be good for people who hold the token, but what goes up must come down. And you then have an entirely different sentiment around the business when you've got thousands of people in the community who've bought a token.
Waiting for dumb.
Yeah, like a 500 million TDV, and it's gone down to 50 million. Even if the business is still existing and doing well with pay, you've now got to fight every response on all social media of someone saying, I put my mortgage in your token, it's gone to zero. So there are little nuances around taking the community approach that you really need to think about before you just dive in and YOLO. Because ultimately, we're trying to build the best crypto orchestration platform in the world. And the exit for the team is going to come when we build a multi-billion-dollar business. And we're not going to be able to do that if we fuck up the tokenomics, because people will come and look at us and be like, I don't want to touch this. Like, I don't want to acquire a business that has this much negative noise around it. So we want to make sure that we get it all right. And ultimately, like you said, we're afforded time. We're in a very fortunate position where almost everyone in the team is quite senior. We they've had jobs where they've been earning six-figure salaries for a number of years. No one is hustling to get that dime in. So yeah, we don't need to rush this launch. And someone pointed out, you guys haven't had many sales, and we were like, oh, like we just don't care. Like, that's great that we've had some and people are trusting us and joining the project, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Like, we're not cashing this out to pay the salaries. Like, we're doing this to create a community and to do it the right way. If it takes a year, it takes a year. Who cares?
Yeah, I want to wrap up this convo. We've been on Apollo, guys, for about the last 25 minutes. So I dropped a link if you're interested in what's going on and what Mark's building. Like Pudgy, he's saying, I like this MF, or at least he's real, not trying to sell you a unicorn dust and rainbows. That's a pretty solid take there, Pudgy. But yeah, I got the link in there. Any last takes from y'all up here, Mark? If you got any last links or topics that you want to hit related to Apollo, let's do it.
I want to highlight, and I'm excited about this. I don't know what you call it, separate branches that you guys have developed, Mark, where it's the tooling and this additions. I like things that start off as playful or as like in the tooling side. I know that it's been certain projects or people that have wanted to be able to do something and the tool didn't exist, like raffles, right? Which are massive if you're talking about growing an audience or being able to really get interaction online. Like, being able to do raffles in a transparent, verifiable way is not easy. And I don't know of any other tool aside from the one that Apollo provides, and it's being used already by like major projects, right? Now you have this additions branch of it, which I'm also very excited about, because there you're like bringing in, you call it the degen side of it, but if there's one thing that crypto has enabled is for everybody to collect really cool art and make amazing connections with artists, right? And I will definitely be throwing my hat in the ring there, and I'm already trying to conceptualize a curation drop via Apollo, right? Like of just artists and a particular theme that I would like to do. And I think the more we start seeing people, like you, Mark, and then I think Dr. Suss is next, right? Doing the the curation.
He's blowing up, by the way. Like, he looks like he's going to be the next host on Rug Radio. He's picking up that much steam and stuff. Like, they had an interview about that. And so he, disclaimer, Dr. Suss owns a small percent of Apollo, the company. So we were quite careful, and we said to him, hey, like, I said this and people thought I was LARPing. I was like, this guy's going to be bigger than Megapomp, which is the NFT project I run. But he's growing in a massive way, and we recognize that, and we brought him on really early, and he's been super helpful in making sure that we're doing right by artists. So we've got that in-house artist who's making sure that, hey, this is actually the pain points that we're seeing in the space. So he owns some stock in the company, and yeah, he's out there shilling all the time because he's like, these guys just get it, and he's a big part of the reason that we do just get it.
Yeah. And I think this can eventually turn into something huge. You know, I feel like the biggest things, the things that turn out to be so big usually start off like this, you know, and I applaud you. Like, you didn't come out saying like, this is the greatest new revolutionary curation platform. No, it's just, this is curation done by some of the members of our community that really dig cool art. And if you go into the Apollo and the Megapond Discords, you'll see there's people with really great taste and relationships with different artists. So I am very enthused about this particular part or sector of this really ambitious project that you're leading. Yeah.
All right.
And I think it's important just to note briefly, because I don't think that we said this. All of the artists and art that's created, all the editions are like paid for. Like you pay the commission price for all of these artists. So all the artists are paid up front. I think that's really great. Again, as far as like creating something that makes sense for the space, that isn't just like extractive or shitty or creating bad, negative sentiment. You're taking care of artists. You are supporting artists and communities, the community when you're doing this. And then also, you had mentioned right now you've got some pretty like solid artists that are starting to blow up, that there's only like 40 editions minted. So getting in on some of these early editions might be pretty fucking solid. So just some other thoughts there. Go ahead, Q.
No, we got to move on. We want to hit the rest of the news before we have to round up the episode. Mark, thank you for breaking down Apollo. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you guys, and I will be minting on that as well, hopefully here after the episode. So excited to be joining that community. Is there a Discord and all that stuff where the
everything's all the links on the website. Yeah, all the links on the website.
Okay, awesome, man. Yeah, I'd love to meet the guys and gals in that community as well. That's definitely a utility for me on the buyer side. So, all right, into other pieces of news. This simultaneously makes me like really happy and also really sad. We've been covering Prime for a while. Prime pulled back to 340 after running up about 30% over the last 24 hours. It's already retraced back to those levels over the last 3 hours. Something's going on. You got DeFi Dad talking about him as well. He's been in the project for a while. I think the train is leaving the station a little bit like on this. And again, we don't have any financial advice, but I was talking about yesterday moving my Illuvium tokens to Prime, and I think I haven't done that, and I will pay the piper of like 10% that I just missed out on that move. Also, we have Deadfellaz. That's going to be the biggest as far as like the news piece, I think, that we're going to touch on today. But we have some like trading card season vibes. I need to make sure I pull this up as well. We had Disney trading cards going for like 100x multiples. This is from Tropo saying these Disney trading card promo cards were sold for $50 a year ago. And today a PSA 10 set sold for $21K. FOMO is alive and well, just not with NFTs. So we see parallel. We know Gods and Chains exists. We see now Deadfellaz pivoting. Is it trading card season?
It absolutely seems like trading cards are going to... I feel like they've been on kind of an incline over the last couple of years. Like I remember just a few years ago, Gary Vee was kind of early on this, resurgence of sports cards becoming a thing. Then there was NBA Top Shot, there's Pokemon cards. I feel like it's kind of been picking up steadily over the last couple of years. And now you're maybe just seeing a continuation of that. I think there's a couple of things that are really exciting. First of all, like the trading card game style is just a perfect match for NFTs and digital collectibles. So it makes sense. A lot of these NFT projects that are looking for products and revenue streams that are moving into kind of a gaming direction are seeing, hey, trading cards are like the perfect type of game. So like that makes total sense. But I see the fact that trading cards in general continue to get more interest both in and outside of Web3 as super, super bullish for NFTs in general, right? Because if people keep getting into collecting these little assets and these characters and this artwork and these games, eventually they're going to discover Web3 and NFTs, right? So I don't know. I'm just excited that more people keep getting into trading cards and that, yeah, it's just becoming a thing.
Did you see the one card sale? The Magic the Gathering one card sale?
Post Malone.
Post Malone,
The
he had a
One
really
Ring.
good he had a really good segment on Joe Rogan talking about that. And I think like when big celebrities are openly talking about, hey, I spent $2 million on a Magic card. Like he has more reach than any NFT project does, right? So that simple segment from him is massive.
When lawsuit, bro, class action lawsuit. Yo, you're pumping and dumping these cards, bro.
really
I don't know, bro.
Yeah, he's pumping Magic cards on Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
But no one screams pump and dump, right? Or scam or anything.
Well,
We've been having that. Hold on, I don't want to devolve into the Creator League drama.
No.
Okay.
Real quick. That is a Magic the Gathering card, I believe, right? The one
is.
card.
Yeah,
That's Magic the Gathering.
A one of one.
Parallel is like a futuristic Magic the Gathering. We keep drawing those parallels, and that's like, a single card from Magic, physical card, just sold for like 2.6 mil or some shit. I'm just saying. And no, you just pulled up the chart of Echelon Prime. Like, why is that pumping? Because maybe people are starting to attach to this narrative and see the potential for this shit.
They're an amazing example of just fucking build a good product first and then worry about shoving it down the throats of Web3. Like, no one has anything bad to say about that game. There are people who might not like the meta or something like that I see on Twitter, but no one is screaming, hey, this is a scam, don't play this is crap, no one likes this. That's a good example. Like, if you want your token and your community and your project to do well, then deliver a good product, right? That's a great example. And I've got massive FOMO now for not playing it, and everyone else has. So I just want to go out and buy some cards.
I wait for
I'm
my
on the same boat.
I'll wait for the link.
All right, real quick, I don't want to dive into Parallel. We are now streaming on the channel. Let me make sure I drop this link. I'm chilling myself these days, but it's really just a shill of the network and what we're building here as well. Let me make sure I can get this. Damn, it's not letting me do it. Okay, I got it. No, we're good. So I just started streaming over here on a new channel. I don't like the way the algos work on any platform. I really don't want to hurt the algo on this channel by spamming games every night. But you can see I hopped into Parallel. I do have that set up over here. I'm going to drop that link. If you guys want to sub to that channel, if you're interested in game streaming and all that stuff, I'm going to be doing that more on this channel. And that's going to be Rec League coming up. It was going to be Heavy Metal Forge today. So I'm going to be doing a lot of streaming on that channel. I just dropped it in the link. If you want to sub, that would be fucking awesome.
What's your rank and what's your place right now? I am currently
in gold. I'm in and out of gold. Like I'm on the MMR.
Wait, boom, boom. I'm gold too. What place?
670 maybe.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Shill aside, we're not going to jump into Parallel because we are doing that on the daily there, even on that stream. So maybe we'll dive into Parallel next week again. It seems to be picking up. Like I don't want to go ahead and like shill the token openly, you know what I mean? But like I'm getting a bag. I need to get a bag. We are earning some as well. We've bought tokens. I have a whole deck. Though the whole works. But let's transition a little bit to this Deadfellaz piece, because one thing that stands out from your talk right there was, Mark, you were saying that they've been building for years. Well, with this Deadfellaz piece, they're going to be building for years, because one of the main components that was kind of hidden in this article is that the beta is going live in 2025. There's an alpha in 2024, but the beta is going to be launching, as you can see here, in 25. That's a huge component to me. You had a great part as well in the GM Web3 Morning Show talking about giving money to a team before they built a game. So
But you don't see this in traditional gaming. Well, you do, but it's very frowned upon. Where like people, all the big streamers and YouTubers will be like, "Hey, don't pre-order this game." Like, there's no reason to, right? Like, why are you pre-ordering in a world of digital games? Like, you used to pre-order games. I remember trying to buy like GTA, and it being sold out. Like, the idea of a game being sold out, a lot of people right now don't understand. They're like, "What do you mean you couldn't get GTA?" I'm like, my mum took me to at least 12 stores because I wasn't 18, so I had to drag her along to buy the flipping thing. And you would go from one store to the next, and it would be sold out, as in, motherfucker, you ain't playing that game tonight because we've got no copies left. Like,
how about Blockbuster
Web3?
too?
Yeah, Blockbuster, like local gaming stores, like games would sell out. In the digital world, they don't sell out, so there's no reason to pre-order. And we wrap that up in Web3, and I'm sure Deadfellaz will do this with, like, what do Web2 games do? Well, they give you discounts, or they give you unique skins or something in the game. So we'll probably see that in what's going on here. But there's no reason to pre-order. Wait for them to release the alpha and beta, and if you like it, then dive in. Like, people are buying into Parallel now because people are saying that this game actually is quite good. Like, it's worth buying into, and there's a big difference there.
The part of this timing too that is hitting me, it's just basically more to your point, Mark, about what can happen, is that like right now is when this trading card thing is taking off. 2 years from now, like, the whole meta of what's interesting and people are into might be totally different.
That's the thing.
So it's like, that's why, investing too much, like, I'm probably going to buy like 1 or 2 vaults because I can, they're only $13 just to have them.
Good pricing by them, by the way. We will come
yeah,
good pricing.
Yeah. They're only $13 for holders. I'll probably get 1 or 2. But yeah, overly speculating on something that has this kind of delay on actually delivering a product, to your point, is, it's very iffy. Things can look so different in 2 years. Not even to mention how fast crypto and NFTs change. You know what I mean? Like, gaming industry, all of it.
It looks like some of this was baked in. So again, the snapshot is today Eastern. They don't even have a time. It says Eastern time, but it's the 7th of September. You see price action about a week or two ago. So about 2 weeks ago, the floor was sitting at 0.11. It's now moved on up to 0.16, but there's no action off this snapshot right now for Deadfellaz getting into this vault. But yeah, we'll stay in this a little bit longer. Biggie, I want your take as well. One thing that I was honing in on is that Betty is the face of this collection. And I'm a big proponent of having a face of a collection. Vitalik's the face of Ethereum. You have a whole bunch of different IPs that you can point to. Gordon was pretty much the face of Bored Ape Yacht Club. Garga is now. But these are important to have somebody leading, even though sometimes that ends up in an FTX situation. You do see a lot of companies benefit from this. Betty, I don't think, is a gamer. So making this switch into a gaming studio or whatever this pivot looks like is one piece. I don't want to hone in on the negative, but to me, I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah, I found it a little bit confusing myself. I joined the Deadfellaz primarily because I know it's a strong creator community, right? And from what I understood, that was kind of like their strong suit and what they were focusing on, right? Like, not too long ago, they released the hologram partnership that they did for like live streaming with your Deadfella, like virtual Deadfella, more along the lines of, say, like a based heads than a card game. So this really fucking threw me off. I was like, I mean, if this is like a side gig or something, or a trend you're trying to ride, fine. But if this is your new true north, you got some competition, a lot of competition way ahead of you. And like you said, maybe with a lot more experience, or, that actually plays card games or everything. Who knows? Maybe she's like a super card player.
She is.
We don't know it yet. Yeah.
She's sitting there grinding Legend on Hearthstone, and we just don't know.
Yeah.
From her foremost traveling the world. Who knows?
Yeah, so that's my 2 cents, man. I love the Deadfellaz, but yeah, let's see how it plays out. It is a little bit of a strange pivot, or sudden. It felt sudden.
Oh, I think there's always interesting things to look at with timing around big announcements. The floor was hitting like basically an all-time low since it minted around 0.1, which is ridiculous. So I'm sure that they felt they were probably working on this for a while, these announcements, but they probably felt like it was a good time to solidify some excitement, you know, in their collector base.
They could have come out with some cards though, right? Like that would have been much cooler. Just a few concepts of cards, characters, maybe elevate some holders into the status of being on a card. How cool would that have been to some holders?
Good point. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of question marks. I think we're tentatively excited, but also it's like, how excited can you get when it's just a long way off? But the snapshot and the vault sale is happening soon, and the price is reasonable. So all of those points are sound. It does seem like Psych, who is, I think, Betty's husband, her partner, and one of the artists behind the project, one of the co-founders, is more of a card, you know, gamer type. So maybe Psych will be taking a little bit more of a lead. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there to the sort of like, you know, leadership aspect of it and having gamers at the helm of something like this. I'm just concerned about what happens 2 years from now. And like, is this idea of a 3D trading card game still even interesting?
And you better have like a plan, right, to remain relevant during those 2 years. Like, there's going to be a lot of questions.
Asmodai is saying, can name 10 TCGs in Web3 that are not working yet. The art hype has driven parallel pre-sales. Great that gameplay matches so far. Lots of changes to come. Doctor Who trading card, anyone? DP saying another project just throwing shit at a wall to see what sticks. This ain't the way, fam. Squash is saying, don't think Betty is a traditional gamer, but she's reference playing games with her kids, and Psych being into gaming even in early spaces about a year and a half ago. But agree in the sense that did not see this direction and pivot coming. So, all right, we'll move on. I want to make it one of my goals next week to make sure we get into DraftKings, at least what's going on over there. Because you can see another card game-based situation, although it's more on the fantasy sports card game. But they are taking the top spot. They were number one until Bored Ape Yacht Club overtook them just recently. But they were number one in volume across all blockchains, across everything in the NFT space. So something's going on with DraftKings, of course, as well. So we'll touch on that next week. That's going to be a goal of mine. What else do we got, fellas?
So Rare is a card game on there as well.
So yeah,
that's a really big football card game. Well, soccer, I guess, to you guys, but football.
Yeah.
I think they recently pulled in the Premier League, which is arguably like the biggest league in the world. So they now have like the Premier League cards on there. But they've had to pivot as well because they were doing the whole like NFT hardcore play where cards were costing like $20,000. So normal people were just like, I've got no interest in this. But they've switched it so it's a more sustainable business model to interest the Web2 community. And I think it's starting to see like a parabolic increase in activity, which is nice to see.
It's good to have an update.
We saw the huge pullback, at least from a very small subset of folks with the Crawley Town and the WAGMI United stuff, Mark. Is there a huge appetite for these folks? Like, do they not know they're NFTs? Like, because we've seen that in gaming. There's a huge pushback. We saw it with WAGMI United where a lot of, of those fans were like, this sucks. This is the rat poison squared type stuff. Do these people at SoRare just not know they're collecting NFTs?
So one of it's too in-depth for this. You should look up a company called Football Index, right? So they really took off just before NFTs. So it was a company called Football Index. And what they basically had as a business model is NFTs before NFTs. So you could buy shares in football players, right? It was gambling, and it was regulated as a gambling entity. So you could buy shares in football players, and they had an algorithm that would give them rating, which would increase their value. So it was based on how they performed and how much media they received. And essentially, it went bankrupt in 2020 because it was a Ponzi scheme in many ways. And they had a very similar mechanic to NFTs, right? So when they released a new player, you could essentially buy shares of that player like a mini IPO. So it would have like a mini IPO for that player and it would go up in value. But that was one of the most popular gambling games specifically in the UK. It was absolutely giant. I mean, if you pull it up, there's articles of it going bankrupt and people losing hundreds of thousands. Very similar to NFTs in many ways.
Friend tech.
But the scariest thing is they were regulated as a gambling entity, so this shouldn't have happened. That was the whole point of it. And so Rare is really, and interestingly, I know this, and maybe I shouldn't know this, But So Rare captured a lot of the architects from within Football Index to build some of their fantasy system and bring it across in a less Ponzi-esque way. So they really capture that massive fantasy football gambling community. How they've got away with not being classified as gambling is to do with their political ties to the French government, heavily funded in France. They're a French company, by the way. A lot of people don't know this.
Interesting.
So they're basically a gambling company, and they hide their gambling play behind NFTs, which is clever because we want to stay away from NFTs. But what they're doing is saying, oh, no, we love NFTs because it enables us to say we're not a gambling company. So that's interesting as well.
What's interesting is the term less Ponzi-esque. That's a great term.
Yeah, so this is pure gambling, right? You basically pick your team of 5 players. If it scores well, you win a prize. There's no way you can't say this is gambling. Whether or not that prize is in Ethereum or cards or a US dollar amount, it's basically gambling. But they hide behind that gambling regulations because of the fact that they're actually NFTs or digital collectibles. So it isn't as toxic as people think in some instances. NFTs are still less toxic than gambling. And one of the reasons for that is, well, people under 18 can buy NFTs.
Squashman is saying, I still think DFC should be targeting that alternative culture demographic. Seems more aligned. That's what appealed to me and how Vocal Betty and Psych were in the space. Asma is saying, lost my So Rare cards in the Switch. Missed the Switch deadline. That's my worst nightmare, is like not keeping up with a project and losing the NFTs. That's surprising they went that route. Yeah, this is the trailer for So Rare, by the way. That was a really well put together little hype trailer for them.
I think they raised $500 million in funding last year or something. So that these guys, and most people in the NFT space haven't heard of them, which is crazy, right? Really. Yep. They've raised more money, I think, than Yuga Labs. And they're just getting on with it.
Yeah, it's the fantasy sports is definitely going to be one of those ways in. It's like gaming. You know, we talk about gaming being a vector for mass adoption or whatever, an entry point for a lot of people. I think fantasy sports kind of falls into that. It's going to be one of those things that maybe a lot of the art focused tech heads and Web3 native collectors and traders don't really fuck with that much or see coming, but it'll be a big, massive part of what happens.
I don't know how many of y'all are into fantasy football, but my thought process, and I think we said this like 6 months ago, that fantasy football groups and the way that groups are formed like all around the country, because essentially what happens is like it's either your friends from home or maybe cousins or family. Everybody's dispersed around the country. You essentially are forming in a group chat around a financial kind of game. Sounds a lot like a DAO.
Sounds a lot like an NFT project, doesn't it?
It's one of the most widely done, I think, or used Web3 idealed things that people do. I know I'm still trying to,
and they're always financially incentivized, right?
Yeah, they always are. And then sometimes these groups have treasuries. Like fantasy, what I'm trying to say is fantasy football groups right now are the most widely dispersed use case of a DAO. Like my friends that are in my group, they're in California, they're in New York, they're in Florida. We have a treasury that we use. Mike Finch actually is the one that is managing the treasury. Sometimes we put that to use and say, hey, we're going to go and travel to Austin and have our draft there. Like, this is a DAO. People don't know it, but this is a fucking DAO. So anyways, that's a little bit of a ramble. I'm gonna throw out some quick news here, and then we're gonna wrap up the episode in the next 5 minutes. Again, this is the tweet from BAYC Heavy Metal Forge. We'll have to wait for next week. We did see another piece of news. We saw, the Tornado Cash developers get arrested, all of this regulation and things like this. This was pretty big. The Ledger co-founder, Nicolas Baca, another French company, by the way, making an appearance on the channel today, is leaving the company after the Recover feature scandal. So it looks like this guy was the one that was putting out on X. Now, again, that's a very broad piece of news, so I'm taking some assumptions. He was probably the one around the wording getting out that Ledger could basically access your seed phrase. That's what I'm guessing from this fallout. I don't know if anybody has any extra info here, but this came across my timeline.
They could have picked a better photo. Like him holding the coin like that, and that's so unfortunate.
He looks like a cyberpunk. He looks like,
Like,
that looks like
Your
a
5 minutes
guys,
of
like, with his
fame.
Back to the Future t-shirt on. Like, I'm sure he has a corporate photo. Like, why use that one? Like, the poor guy's been done hard there. Yeah. I mean, that was some unfortunate events, but he's probably happy to leave in many ways. I'm sure he has a bag of money that it's hard to comprehend to many people. Ledger's a massively successful company.
Love
And
it.
look,
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's one of the Ledgers we gave away, actually. Yeah, that's awesome.
OG
That's
right
an OG.
there.
I've got a box of 100 of those actually not far from me right now that I need to figure out how to
I
give
know
away.
there's too many people that want them.
Yeah, logistics, nightmare. Someone needs to solve that, by the way, for Web3. Absolute nightmare.
All right, last stories I have. Glenfiddich, the Scottish whiskey, the old single malt Scotch whiskey company there, is releasing an NFT with a physical component, it looks like. I'm going to drop this in chat for those of you that dabble in whiskey. I'm going to read it directly from the post here. For the first time ever, this remarkable spirit is presented in a striking black capsule, echoing the elegance of the liquid inside. Glenfiddich 30-year-old suspended time limited edition. Looks like September 12th. Biggie,
This
are
is
you
selling
interested?
Not in this particularly. I think there's definitely a strong use case for NFTs with liquor, more in the wine space, and maybe like in some of these like really bespoke like liquors, right? That it's like got limited runs and where you can maybe like hold the NFT and sell it to somebody else and they can claim it. But no, not particularly. I mean, I do like my whiskey. I'm more of a rum guy, to be honest. But I'm always looking out for the liquor ones. Like I think somebody will be able to crack that code.
Gifted, we need a term for this idea of going over to the like company's profile and whether they've actually acknowledged the NFT play at any point, because I feel like that's a go-to reference. Like that's a checkbox if you think
how much do you believe in it.
Have they not?
I feel like we had a term for this. Who was it that originally like sort of did this siloing shitty?
Yes.
Porsche did it as well. Porsche did it in a big way, right? Where they launched basically a new little brand that they tried to pretend didn't exist.
I think Mercedes is doing that. Zynga's doing it. Zynga is not posting anything about their new game because it's just they're just treating it like a marketing channel and a little experiment. And if it doesn't go well, we'll pretend it never happened. We'll sweep it.
This is what I mean about engagement, though, right? Compared to Web3, look at the engagement on that tweet, like the numbers. It's like mid-tier NFT influencer numbers.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I got more likes than that yesterday. Come on, man.
That's what I mean.
Get up, Glenfiddich. I'm a mid-tier, lower middle-tier influencer here.
Nobody go look at my numbers. Micro influencer is the word. Micro.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, super micro. In
your
many
mom's
ways.
favorite influencer, as I like to be called.
And I'd
That's
love
a
to
great
see
term.
like how like unique these liquors are. Like I'm not too familiar with Glenfiddich, right? Like, but I would not believe that like their premier scotches are gonna be the ones being sold through NFTs, right? Because most of their collectors are already, in the door, and they usually already have first dibs on buying that or pre-ordered. Like this is just like a wrapper for them, no? Like adding the whole NFT component, which is the shitty part in my opinion. Like if you were to put your best product forward, your best foot forward, yeah, you would definitely sell out immediately, right? Like I don't know if you're doing like a sherry cask and there's only 50 in the world and it's already known to be fantastic and everybody wants it, I'm sure you'd have no issue. But here, I feel it's just like some mid-tier level product wrapped around an NFT with a nice bottle, of course.
30-year aged Scotch. that's got to be at least some type of quality. 30-year. I'm going to dive in. The price is $1,000. But to Biggie's point, like there's probably better whiskey that is more probably sought after that they're not attaching to this NFT collection. So
how much is that 29-year bottle? Does it say? It probably won't say, will it? But like, or 23. Like you could just compare it to what currently exists, I guess, and try and make parallels. I can't imagine. I can't imagine it's $1,000. It's a bit too mass produced, I think, Glenfiddich.
I'm trying. Their website is not that interactive. I'm trying to click discover and it's not working. Glenfiddich.
I'm sure we're butchering the name too.
Glenfiddich can't be that far off.
I think it might be
Mark's in
Glenfiddich.
it.
Glenfiddich, maybe?
Yeah,
Glenfiddich. Oh yeah, you're right.
Anytime
I'm not
I've tried
Scottish,
to
yeah,
pronounce
it's-
one of these.
It's I mean, I'm
fucking-
English, guys. I'm not Scottish. I can't pronounce this. Like they've got locks named like, words that I can't pronounce. I'm like, I have no idea what that's saying. It might as well just be in Italian. But yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
I'm sitting here with my feet planted firmly in Merca. So here it's Glenfiddich.
It's
All right,
Glenfiddich.
Glenfiddich.
I'm gonna
But,
drink my Glenfiddich. Give me a chimichanga.
Jeez.
All right.
Kawanga. Yo, Kawanga. Anyway, sorry. That's a Cali joke.
As usual, this has been a conversation all over the place. Hopefully, we did use some good here in the NFT space in your journey on this wild west journey that you're on in the NFT and Web3 space. We tried to give you all the news. We tried to hone in on Apollo. Hopefully, we did a good job. If you think we did a good job, leave a like. Leave a like for Mark here, Biggie Poppins, Gifted, Nifty Q. If you appreciated the content, thank you guys for tuning in. By the way, any last takes here? Let's go around. Let's go opposite though. Gifted. Let's start with you, man, because it sounded like you had something to get to real quick.
Yeah, I just quick follow up on the breaking news of Justin Bieber launching an NFT song. No, it's bullshit. It's another scam. It's just some old producer that collaborated with him on a song in 2015 that's trying to extract more value out of his archive. It has nothing to do with Justin Bieber. It's very much like the Rihanna situation. You're not going to make any money doing it. It's basically an unregistered security anyway, and this is not how NFT music is going to make it. So there you go. There's the TLDR on the Justin Bieber quote unquote news.
Some nice notifications you got there. That's like a lower middle tier influencer notification. I saw it. Come on, man. No.
All right.
Trying to have some fun here. Mark, thanks for joining, man. I don't know if you'll come back after this one, but I appreciate
No, this one's
you
been the
stopping
most
by.
fun, right? There was no structure. It was all over the place. I'm not sure what we talked about. Absolutely loved it.
Did my job.
That's awesome, man. Mark, thank you for being here, fellas. It's been great. OVOT fam, and we'll see you next week.
OVOT, again, no episodes tomorrow. We probably will be live streaming on Friday and maybe this weekend here from the channel, as well as the one that I put in chat earlier. Mark, great job again on all this stuff. Guys, I will see you next week, Monday, GM Web3, NFT Live. We'll do it all again.
Peace.
Thanks.